Hey everybody, this is Tom with VermiBag. I'm finally going to do an update on the VermiBag wedge systems. I currently have two of these running. I have Indian Blues in this one, and I have Euros in the one over there. This was originally supposed to be red wigglers, but the worms I got in were not red wigglers, they were Indian Blues. So they're a good worm too. Actually, they're a very good worm to set up in this system. Just my weather's a little bit colder than I would like for Indian Blues, but I think they'll work fine because I do have heat pads in these. And I'll show you that when I go through the system and show you, the changes I've made from the initial video, which there's quite a few different changes that I've done to the system. So I'll take you in closer and kind of show you the different systems and show you what's up with them. Okay, now the one on the back that actually has the cedar siding is actually the first one that I made. And the first thing that I changed is after I put a lot of weight into these things, I filled them up basically with almost completely full of material. And the PVC pipe that I had along here, even though it was 3/4 inch, or 1 inch PVC pipe, it just started to sag. I could see bows in it just a little bit. So I went ahead and went with a 1/2 inch EMT. And it's super sturdy that way, and it's actually easier to work with the EMT than it was the PVC. It's actually a little bit cheaper. So I just have clamps on them. They go through the sleeve and then in the center. And so it fits really nice and snug along the stand. So it works really well. Now the one on the right, again, I put the cedar fencing around it because I had some extra stuff I found at Home Depot real cheap, and insulate it that way, because underneath these I actually, on both of them, they're the same. This one here is exactly the same as this. I just have siding on that one there, and the one on the right actually has the larger caster wheels, and the one on the left has the smaller caster wheels. So they're a little bit different height, but they're the same exact bag. So underneath both of these I have placed some R13 insulation, and then I put one of the VivoSun's heating pads underneath here that's a 48 inch by 20 inch I think. And they work really well. I have them on a thermostat, so I have them set for there at about 70. The reds, I think I have them at 75, 76 degrees. And the Euros I have a little bit cooler, I think 74, 75, somewhere around, just pretty close to the same, but a little bit cooler. Running these on a thermostat seems to work really well. And they are in direct contact barely with the bottom of the bag. There might be a little bit of an air gap on the one over here. And the next system I make actually on the stand, I'm actually going to make the stand slightly taller I do have a little bit of an air gap there. I really don't want the heating pad touching the bag. I'd prefer to have like a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch air gap there. It won't be as efficient, but I don't really like it touching it completely. And so I need to make the stand or the legs just a little bit taller for I can get that gap underneath there. Because once these bags are full of material too, they're going to actually sag a little bit more and they'll really push down. But the heating pads, like I said, work really well. This one in particular, because it's insulated, I have all the way around have wood covering the outside of it and stuff, so it keeps it fairly warm. And then I also cut some foam, hard foam pieces here, and I put on the top if it gets really cold. Now as far as monitoring the systems, again, I have this EcoWit monitor that has a temperature monitor. This is just strictly to go to my phone, so I can actually monitor the temperature of each one of these bags. So now the blues I currently have into a wedge formation. You're probably wondering what's on top of these. These are just actually Cordura pillow covers, kind of. I don't know what else to call them. I make them out of Cordura material, and then I just stick either a cheap Walmart pillow inside of it. Acts as nice insulation. And this one here I actually filled up with some cellulose insulation. It's just paper. So filled it up. It's pretty heavy, but it sits on top of there and provides a really good insulation for the worms, for all that heat doesn't escape out the top. And I have them in a lot of my systems now. And the Cordura covers here are basically waterproof and stuff, so you don't really have to worry about them too much. I mean, I wouldn't soak them down with water. And they do a really good job, like I said, of keeping the heat in the system, especially in the colder times. So if I pull back out the insulation pillows, and then pull the cover back, I normally put, I use those Vermi covers a lot because they're made out of that Cordura and they breathe, but they're also waterproof, so they work really well. And a lot better than bubble wrap because, I mean, you'll never have to replace them. But the worms prefer to hang out underneath, you know, cardboard or paper and stuff, so. So pull these all off. You can see those blues are liking it there. This is a this is a moisture sensor that again feeds back to my phone. And this is the way I'm going to do this. Right now I only have probably I don't know, 15 gallons, or probably on just right around 15 gallons of material in here. And I'm just starting to form this wedge. And what I do now is every couple days I come in here and I just add another layer of manure and bedding and just lay it down all the way down to the bottom. I probably won't go that direction at all. This wedge is just going to get steeper and steeper until I actually have this bag full all the way up to, you know, up to the edge here. So that's going to be at least another 15 gallons of material before the wedge even starts to move the other direction. If I dig down in here just a little ways, you can see the difference. It starts getting really black and a little bit lighter on the top. These reds are actually, or blues are actually working this pretty good. There's already some pretty good castings in the system. And they're pretty well evenly distributed everywhere. And again, with that heating pad underneath it, I mean, it's warm in here. And the worms, you know, when they start getting cold, they kind of ball together in different areas and stuff. And they actually generate their own heat. And that's another good reason for having some type of an insulator on the top, is to, you know, trap that moisture in for the worms. And then what I'm doing on here is just, you know, again, I add a little bit of horse manure and then some worm chow and a little bit of bedding, you know, the three things. And just daily or every other day I come in and just fill this in. So from this angle you can really see how the wedge is starting to form right there. And it's just going to get steeper and steeper until I get up to the bottom of this right here, which is still a lot of material. And once I get to that point, then I'll go ahead and start moving it this way. Now we'll take a look at the other one here. This is the Euros. And if I pull off the pillows, pull the cover back. These are some big Euros, I tell you. I mean, they're fat and happy, that's for sure. They really like hanging out in this cardboard. I have a bunch of moving boxes, and it's really heavy-duty cardboard. So I take it outside and let it get nice and wet. Then I bring it in here and, you know. But I mean, these things are monster. Very healthy. Now I've had a few issues actually with protein poisoning on a few of the Euros. I see them occasionally here and there, especially before. And I think it was the new peat moss that I got. I think it was just higher in acidity than I thought it was going to be. So I really cut back on the amount of peat moss that I've been using in the system. So I'm probably not putting more than 20 to 25% peat moss. And then I'm adding the rest as being horse manure, coconut coir, and shredded cardboard paper mix. And the worms so far seem to be doing pretty good with that. I'm kind of recovering from that. And I didn't have a lot of them, but it was just odd. It seemed like the bedding was so good. And then I'd come in here and I'd find a few that you know, were dead from protein poisoning. So They really like hanging out in this cardboard, but every layer has some in it. And there's a lot of Euros in this system right now, so I'm going to do right now, since this material is worked over fairly decently, they could definitely work it over more, but I'm going to go ahead and take all this material and pull it down to one end and form a wedge and start running this system as a wedge now. I'd been running it just like this because I needed some more castings, and so after running it for about almost 3 weeks, I decided to just go ahead and harvest it for casting. So I pulled everything out of it, harvest the castings, and then put it back. So now it's been about another 2.5 weeks since that happened. So rather than harvesting these castings, I want to go ahead and push this up into a mound and start the wedge on this one. Then I can compare the wedge here with the wedge there. And I am going to make up another bag and put a third one here, and I'm going to run red wigglers in that and just see how the three compare on which one works best on this VermiBag wedge. Again, you can see how the EMT, fit in here. It worked really well. And then this bag, or excuse me, this stand again, I went ahead and put the wood on the front, so it's insulated actually pretty good and holds the temperature in there pretty good. The heat really holds in there pretty well. So let me set up the tripod and I'll pull up this material and we'll make a wedge with this. Okay, so I'm going to pull the rest of the material out of here, all the paper anyway. All those worms that are stuck in between it there. So the worms probably aren't going to be happy with this, especially these Euros. I mean, they don't like getting moved and changed. They don't like change. Now this is my temperature probe for the heater that's underneath the bag. So I'll set it back there. Basically I'm going to take all the contents and just go ahead and I want to fluff it up a little bit too to make sure it isn't getting too compacted. So again, this is going to make them not real happy. See how it looks. I'm just going to start moving it down here to the end. Forming the wedge. Get the stuff that's down the end down there. So it's going to be curious to see, the Euros go down deeper than, the reds or the blues. So, maybe they'll do better in this system. I'm not really sure. I'm really kind of thinking that the red wigglers and the blues are actually going to be a better match for this type of a method. But I'm going to give it a shot here with the Euros and see how it goes. So I'm going to add just a little bit of bedding mix. This has a lot of alfalfa pellets in it too, this topping that I'm putting on here right now. Peat moss and coconut coir. Then I'm going to add a bunch of horse manure on the top. And this is just pure horse manure sifted. Probably about 3/4 of a gallon or so. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of chow on the surface. Mix it in a little bit with the cow manure. Now, I didn't wet down this manure and stuff at all, so I'm going to go ahead and wet it down a little bit. Nice thing about the bag systems too is it's real easy to monitor things, because you can actually come in here and just push along the side and you can run your hand down real deep, where if you're trying to do that on a tub or something, a hard plastic, it's hard. I mean, you probably end up crushing worms and stuff. Actually, this thing keeps plugging up. I don't know what I got in it. So I wet it down real good. The moisture in it was actually pretty good. I mean, it definitely wasn't dry, but you know, being a bag system here, if anything, it's going to dry out. So you're definitely going to want to watch the moisture in these, and you know, explore down inside them every once in a while to see how things are going. So we'll go with that for right now. Then I'll go ahead and put the cardboard back on it, paper that I had. I like to have this, and then I put the vermi cover over the top of it, that Cordura cover. They prefer laying underneath paper, you know, versus anything else, paper and cardboard. So I'll give them what they like. And I'll go ahead and put the cover back on. I forgot to put my temperature monitor here. So let's take this. I'm going to put it back basically just about, you know, down about 5 inches or so right here in the middle. If anything, on that monitor I want it down deeper because I don't want the bottom, you know, the heat pad's underneath, so I don't want the bottom getting too hot. If you had it right at the top, the bottom could be 100 degrees and the top would be 50 degrees because of the depth. So you want that monitor that goes on that thermometer, or on that thermostat, you want it down pretty low. I'll go ahead and put on my insulating pillows and we're good to go. So that's the update for the VermiBag wedge systems. I got the blues all tucked back in, and I got the Euros all set up for their first wedge. And I got my new little Aussie here that's keeping track of everything for me. Her name is Misu, as in tiramisu, from Italy. Hi, Misu. Say hi. Say hi. Yeah. She's a bouncer. So I'm really liking them so far, and I think I'm going to go ahead and make another one up and put some red wigglers in it over on the end here. So if things go well, I'm hoping by the end of May or latter part of May, if these look like they're doing really well, I'll go ahead and probably have them up for sale. This is Tom from VermiBag. Till next time, ciao.